Level Up Human, the comedy science podcast, souping up the Homo sapien. Welcome to Level Up Human! Hello and welcome to Level Up Human, the show that looks at the human race and tries to figure out how to make it better. We're taking suggestions from our panel, from our audience, and from the natural world to work out exactly what the next stage in human evolution should be. We think that humans are not quite fit for purpose. After all, the current model cannot reach all the parts of its body to apply sunscreen. Think of all the ways in which we can improve it. I'm your host, Simon Watt, and today I am joined by three classic edition Homo sapiens in the form of our guests. On my immediate left, we have pitching ideas, Kathryn Harkup. Kathryn is a chemist, an author, and a vampirologist. Does that basically mean that you really like Twilight?
No, I hate Twilight. Real vampires don't sparkle, okay?
Why are you laughing at that and not the phrase real vampires, please?
I got interested in vampires, and someone once called me a vampirologist. I thought that was just too cool. I'm keeping that. That's an awesome title.
I can see why. Also, you've a new book out about murder and chemistry, which is making you sound even more dangerous.
Anything in and around death, I'm all interested. So, yes, poisons particularly, and Agatha Christie, and how her brilliant use of poisons in her novels. And how they kill you. I find it fascinating that these tiny substances can have such a devastating effect on a human.
You should write a book about that.
It's in the bookshop, please. I could do with the royalties. Please, buy it.
So Kathryn's going to be giving us ideas. We can see why her place matters. Also, we're joined by Ben Garrod. Ben Garrod is an evolutionary biologist and a monkey wrangler.
Thank you.
People at home think you've just brought a monkey with you now as a result. Have you got a favourite primate, actually?
Chimps. They are horrible, nasty little gits, but they are wonderful. They make spears. Nowadays. It's like a new fashion.
Why not?
Chimp fashion.
Yeah.
So again, having looked at our relatives, you'll understand how we can perhaps improve humans. And judging their ideas to see if they're worth patching into our code is the tremendous writer, actor, and comedian, Robert Llewellyn. Some of you may recognize Robert as a star of Red Dwarf, the android Crichton. And I have to admit, whenever I first met you a couple of years back, I was shocked by how much you actually look like him. Like, no, but like, think about it, isn't Crichton like... No, but he's... Oh, jeez. It's not being mean. Crichton's just kind of like a low-res version of you, I always think.
He's got a head like a 1950s fridge.
But that's the reason. The reason why I've asked you is because obviously not only you're sci-fi, but you also write books and things with a very good scientific edge.
Well, that's very kind of you. Yes, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly trying to do that. Yeah.
And so you feel like you're in a position perhaps to comment on what ideas these people think might be good.
Because I've thought about it a great deal. So I've just finished a science fiction trilogy, one of which has very much enhanced humans in it.
Can you give anything away?
In a benign way. Well, I quite like it. There's a thing called a kidonge that everyone in the world has. They're given them in their baby milk when they're tiny. And it's just a communication device. So everybody knows everything about everyone, and therefore there's no need to worry about snooping or Big Brother. Everyone knows everything. So I'd sit here and I'd look around the room and I'd know every one of your names, when you were born, what your age was, whether you're heterosexual or homosexual, everything. But you'd also know everything about me instantly, and it's boring, and you don't want to bother, and no one's bothered. No one watches anyone, and then you're nice to people when you meet them because they're nice, and you can tell, and basically it removes all that suspicion and fear. That's the theory. It's science fiction.
Well, that gives you a good perspective in which you can comment on these people's ideas.
Yeah.
So, before we launch into the pitches, each of our panel have brought along some news stories to show you the kind of thing which is actually happening now, before we take things off on our own wild tangents. Why don't we start with you, Ben? What news stories have you brought?
Well, this one's a sad one. I'm disabled. I haven't got a sense of smell. Okay. It's like one hell of a time delay in here. This is my problem, and no one cares. Thank you. Again, you are my favourites at the front. Anosmia is a very serious thing, and what annoys us anosmics, there's actually a help group for us, nerds, is that we have no concept of what smell is at all. And what annoys us the most, when I say, oh, what does that thing smell like? You all tell me something totally different. So if someone says, what does this sound like? It's like it's much more objective. With smell, it's very, very subjective. And they're now designing the O-phone. So it's the olfactory phone that don't snigger, that can actually pick up smells and cues, and they're developing ways that it'll go water, orange juice, which doesn't sound great to you lot. It's going to change my life forever.
The problem I have with that, surely...
That's being developed.
But you're keeping your phone all the time in your pocket, so you've got something which is constantly smelling your groin.
I'd like to know when it smells.
That's a fair point.
I just want to ask you a quick question, and I'm trying to do it in the most polite way possible. But for instance, because I was thinking, that's quite an advantage, because lots of things don't smell nice. But then I thought, oh no, some things smell amazing. So then I thought, a really lovely curry on rice. So really, you could look at that, and you'd be right over it. You could tell it was warm. You could see it was food. But you wouldn't be able to smell it. So just supposing that curry, there was something else on that plate that was brown and a bit... You wouldn't know, because I would know from 50 feet. But you wouldn't know?
I'd know at some point, not as quick.
Yeah. Hopefully before the fork went in.
Yeah. I really feel your pain.
But that's amazing. So really, you would know. Can you not smell you know what?
I can sometimes, it sounds weird, you'll occasionally, if you know me well enough, my tongue will sometimes pop out. And you can air taste certain scents, and it's very different to smell.
Right.
I can pick up things in very, very distinct ways. So I work with dead things a lot. A rotting porpoise tastes in my mouth exactly the same as a creme brulee. I do not eat creme brulees.
I can feel your pain here, because I don't have no sense of smell, but I used to have a very bad one, until one night my wife headbutted me.
Was it around about the birthing time?
It was just in the night by accident one of these days, and about 3 or 4 days later in the bath, a kind of horrible red slug shot from my face. And since then, I've been able to smell, and I've discovered that London stinks. I hadn't known this. So I'll get my wife to headbutt you, if that's what you want.
I'm good. I'm going to wait for the phone to come out.
What about you then, Kathryn? What have you brought along?
I've been slightly obsessed over the previous months with this comet that we've managed to land a probe on. 67P, it's a really catchy name. But if you see pictures of this comet, it's fantastic. It looks like a giant rubber duck that's flinging its way through space. And apart from these beautiful, beautiful pictures that these probes have sent back, just the phenomenal human achievement of landing a probe on something that is 4 kilometers big, travelling at phenomenal speeds, that is many, 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 many miles away. That's extraordinary. Once they got there, they also have run various tests, and they've discovered, there's almost discoveries every week from this comet. But the most recent one I've heard about is they've discovered phosphorus and glycine on this particular comet, and those are very, very key ingredients for life. So there is a theory that life came to this planet through comets colliding with the surface. So in fact, we are all aliens. We have all come from outer space. And this is just extra kind of clues that this might possibly be the case, which I think is fantastic.
You're not going to like this, Ben, but I know that there's some people doing science demonstrations where you get to sniff comets and see what comets would smell like because of these compounds.
They smell quite bad, I've heard.
You pick on Ben night.
Can be.
What does a comet smell like, you two?
Comety. Robert, what's your news story? What have you brought with you?
Well, I was very interested in a recent report about how you program computers, because I've got mates who can do that thing where they type really fast and explain what they're doing, and it means nothing. Blah, blah, blah. You just do that, backslash C, you know, I don't even know what they're doing. I've got no idea what they're doing. And this one is you train a computer like you train a dog. And that really, I went, oh, that's good. So the computer learns, but you teach it on very basic level, you know, sit, stand, wait, all that stuff. And I'm quite good at that. I've trained quite a few dogs. I've got a ridiculous dog at the moment that is untrainable. He needs reprogramming. He's got I don't know, some of you may know, he's a lurcher. A lurcher is basically the most annoying stick insect creature that can run at about 40 miles an hour and has no sense at all and is ludicrously affectionate and sweet-natured and loving. And I just quite like a computer like that you can kind of go, oh, shut up, you stupid animal, which I do to him, and he just looks at me and goes, I love you. Doesn't matter what you do. And that I think I could understand how to program computers then, and how they could learn, I could learn from them and they could learn from me. So,
because what's really interesting there, because let's do a survey actually, audience, be honest, go woo if you've shouted at your computer.
Woo.
Woo. Right, how would you feel about having to say sorry to it afterwards?
yeah.
That's what's going to happen. So that's the stuff which is actually happening right now. So, Robert, these guys are going to give you some pitches, their suggestions. What kind of thing are you looking for? What would you like to see maybe in humans?
I mean, one of the things, because of having to wear glasses, which has only been the last few years, I used to have very good eyesight, sat in front of a cheap Alan Sugar-produced computer 25 years ago, the Amstrad, and my eyeballs more or less fell out after a few hours of writing, because it just... And so I quite like enhanced vision, which I know is quite a common suggestion, but I would like a zoom feature. I mean, it's also been featured in Red Dwarf, I'd like, to be able to flip images and have map overlays, head-up displays, all on my eyes, information about who people are, that kind of thing. Okay. So I'd quite like to have, and I'd really like to have cameras in my knees, shins, and shoulders, as well as back of the head, because I'm always walking into stuff, and if I saw it, I'd see that down there. There's a thing sticking out the drawer. You haven't closed the drawer. Bang! Oh, I do that all the time. And my shins are just a massive scar tissue, so I want eyes down back there.
That's a fantastic idea. Well, you've heard the kind of stuff he's after. So let's get to our panel pitching. Why don't we start with you, Kathryn? What would you like to see in the next version of Human Even?
Okay, so I've taken my inspiration from the great bamboo lemur. It seems to me this creature has a distinct advantage over humans in that it is completely immune to cyanide. It can eat as much cyanide as it wants, it won't die. Now, I'm not suggesting that people are getting poisoned regularly. There's a downside to this particular advance. So downside first, you're going to have to change the plot of some Bond films. Spies are going to have to think of some alternative ways of doing away themselves, and murderers are going to have to get a bit more creative. However, cyanide it's everywhere in our environment because it's such a simple molecule, and it turns up in food a lot, particularly a food that is eaten an awful lot in tropical regions called cassava. Cassava is absolutely laced with cyanide compounds that are toxic. Now, if you eat cassava, if you live in a region where they eat it, you know how to process this root to remove the cyanide. The problem is that in times of drought, this cyanide it accumulates even more intensely within the root, and you don't have the water available to process it properly. And people become poisoned by this, and it creates a condition called konzo, and it's debilitating nerve damage. People lose the ability to walk, and it's permanent. You don't recover from this. So although there's a kind of joking downside of spies and Bond and things like this, there would be a genuine advantage to humans in having cyanide immunity.
Now, see, can I ask you a question there? Because that raises something. I've always wondered why cyanide is so common in nature. Why is it one of the go-to chemicals?
So cyanide, it's one atom of carbon and one atom of nitrogen, and from a chemist's point of view, it's a really useful little hook to do chemistry on. So it's a useful way of making a whole variety of other compounds. So it's a good starting point. So it crops up everywhere because in our bodies we're doing chemical reactions the whole time, and you're manipulating and changing molecules to make new and useful things. So cyanide is just one of those chemical ways of doing that. So it's just everywhere.
I do have to ask as well, because I'm not rubbing it in again, Ben, sorry, but as far as I know, aren't I right in thinking that cyanide smells of almonds?
Almonds smell of cyanide.
Sorry, I got that the wrong way around.
How the hell am I going to survive?
No, there's a reason for this. I know this because I was doing some work in Borneo a couple of years back, right, and they have some millipedes there. Yes. That if you stroke them, they smell of Bakewell tarts. And it is amazing. Like, and people running around sniffing millipedes. You'd have to lick it, Ben. That's the problem, you see, to find out. And this is no good.
But it is cyanide that they're releasing.
But is there cyanide in almonds then? Is that
Yes,
right?
there is, absolutely, particularly in bitter almonds. You shouldn't eat bitter almonds. Sweet almonds, there is some, but you're not going to eat enough sweet. You're going to have to eat an awful lot of sweet almonds before you get poisoned by the cyanide. But it's in apple pips, peach pits, and it's in a form that can turn into hydrogen cyanide within your stomach. But humans, we have some ability to process cyanide. We can process about 1 gram a day. So moderate your apple pip intake accordingly. But just the bamboo lemur could eat as many as he wants.
Wow.
You've got me wondering what the lethal dose of Bakewell tart is now, actually.
I can do you the lethal dose of apple pips.
Oh, go on.
It's about 200 grams. It's quite a lot.
What's that in apple pips? Like, how many pips?
In apples, it's thousands, but in pips, it's a good handful. You're going to have to grind them up as well. I mean, people are going to notice. The best I've come up with is kind of make it into a flour and bake it into a cake or something.
Do we have to make a disclaimer now for this?
Don't try this at home.
Right. So is that... Can somebody get a mic to this lady? Thank you.
How much marzipan is a lethal dose?
Oh, I haven't worked it out for marzipan. That's one I need. Homework. I'll figure it out. I'll tweet it.
Yeah,
Do you really like Stalin? Is that it? Is it like...
I love Stalin. I could eat
Stalin.
marzipan all day because I'm going to Lübeck soon, which is the marzipan capital of... And I was thinking I'm just going to lie in marzipan and just eat. Because I love it. So now I'm not. I'm terrified now. I'm not going to do
Well,
it.
there's your
I'm
experiment.
sure it's fine.
Yeah.
He's going to do it for you.
Go
He's
to
gonna
Lübeck.
find out.
I'll eat as much as I can in a day.
You've just killed Robert Llewellyn. Like, oh, the BBC is going to sue you so bad. Is that on the short list then, Robert?
I think it is actually. I'm quite intrigued because I'm just wondering whether because it's so common, and obviously there's a lot of people are going to suffer from it, and particularly. Don't want to get too political. Well, it's not political; it's science. With the increasing temperatures, particularly in those regions of the world, and more droughts and all those things, that effect sounds like it's going to get more common rather than less common.
Okay.
The other worrying thing I should say, you worry about not having a sense of smell. 40% of people, that for genetic reasons, cannot smell cyanide. Just cannot smell it. So the almond thing isn't a guarantee that you've detected cyanide. It might be there. You might be one of those unlucky people that can't smell it.
So we can only take one suggestion forward each episode, but that's on the short list for now. Ben, what's your suggestion?
Whereas Kathryn wants to save the world, I care about you. Remember that. She's just trying to impress Robert. I want you to be happier, people. Now, I said earlier that I have my downs in life, but I also have some positives. I'm from Norfolk, and we... I was just giving you background. I wasn't trying to be funny.
Are you saying you've got the web toe covered already?
No, but my feet are out for a reason. Anyone get bad back here? Yeah. It's horrible having a bad back, and you've got to bend over, pick things up. It's just god-awful. Being from Norfolk, we can just pick things up with our feet in a much better way that most people can. Now, 1 in 250 of us can use our feet very, very in a dexterous way. I don't want to move forward. I want to move back a little bit. Having worked with primates all around the world, and there's another primatologist here right now, I marvel at how they can use their feet in ways we can't imagine. Now, if you could use your feet in a fraction of the way the chimp can, it would be incredible. And all it would take would be a slight lengthening of the toes and a slight moving around of the big toe. You get bunions, I know they're problems, but if you just move the little architecture of the foot out a little bit, you've got 4 hands. How much better would that be? You drop the remote, pick the remote up. It would save your bad backs.
I love this, but can I ask actually then, why don't we already? Like, why did we lose this ability? What did we gain by it?
Because that picture there, because we went bipedal. Bipedal's the worst thing God ever invented. Seriously. Bad backs, posture's all wrong, you get disalignment, and then the feet to accommodate that have just moved around, and it's all about balance. You balance on the ball of your feet. This would come at the cost, you'd have to walk slightly hunched, probably. Be all right. But you wouldn't get bad backs.
So hunch before you get a bad back rather than causing a bad back.
In that posture, it's a slightly more angular posture. More natural. Let's go back to our roots.
All right, old school. So he's going for monkey feet. Is that a good way of putting this? What do you reckon? Is that on
Well,
the short
monkey
list?
feet really appeal because as a child I've got very flat feet. So the exact opposite, but not quite the opposite of yours, because it was one of the exercises the school doctor gave me. Was I had to do? I'm not going to take my shoes off for the benefit of the rest of the audience. You'd be fine. But you know, I had to do that thing where you moved your foot along to strengthen your arch. It was all about so you're basically lifting your foot up with your toes, standing up, walking on my toes, and also writing with my feet. So I had to hold a pen with my feet and learn to write on a piece of paper, hold it with one foot, write with the other. And I actually could write my name quite effectively with my right foot, and it was a bit wibbly wobbly with my left foot. But I spent hours with and I had a big fat pen with tape wrapped around it that my mum did so I could grip it. And it just, what it did was, what you don't want is unflexible. I'm sure that's wrong. Inflexible flat feet are really bad. That's when people plop, plop, plop.
Yes.
So I've got flexible flat feet so I can run and walk on my toes and things like that. So, but I've got very, very low arches. It's quite shocking when I walk over wet cement. Walking over wet cement, no. Get out of the swimming pool on a hot day with dry cement, and I walk, and it looks like penguins walk there. There's no like front bit and back bit and toes. There's just a flap. There's a big plop, plop, and that's my feet do that.
I've got to ask.
So I like the idea of being able to grip things with my big, flat, flappy penguin feet.
I've got to ask about speed here, because like one of the things that makes us special as a primate is we're fast. Do we lose anything like that?
No, not especially. One of the things we got as humans is that we can do very long distances, and we think from an evolutionary point of view, we did long distances for walking, for these long migratory things, or hunting, as a lot of the West African tribes or traditional tribes still do. We've never had this thing where we think we've evolved purely to run. We're rubbish at running. We can do very short distances, but so can chimps. You try and outrun a chimp, you've got no chance.
So if they're running on all...
a bamboo lemur.
Yeah.
Not you personally, but bamboo lemurs are quicker. No, they're not actually. But most primates are quicker than us.
But can a chimp run fast for a long time using all four of its limbs?
Sort of pound along, coming at you.
Because there's at least some suggestion in our evolutionary history we kind of ran down prey just by keeping going, we exhausted them just by jogging, shall we say?
Yeah, we can do
we jogged things
very
to death.
slow, very long distance, which is again we don't know, but we think partly why we're sort of mostly hairless. Why we've got the whole sweat gland thing and change. Yeah,
I suppose while we're not running, why not have an extra pair of feet?
Yeah, how often have you run for hours and hours and hours recently? Again, not you personally. Exactly. Yeah. These bodies are wasted, they're rubbish. We need to go back a step.
Okay, well that's two things on the short list. You've been easy to please so far, Robert.
Well, I am easy to please, yeah.
I think our audience here can do better. So, members of the audience have been giving suggestions on our questionnaires as they came in. We will go to you guys if we have ones. But what grabbed you? Should we start with you, Robert?
There's one that I really love because it would really help me.
Are they in the room or are they not?
I think they're in the room. Sue, this is from Sue at Steps Travel. So I don't know, Sue.
Sue, would you like to take part in our podcast?
Hi. My suggestion was that we have a pause button or a rewind so that you stop saying really stupid things. So you have a bit of a delay between your brain and your mouth.
A delay between brain and mouth. That would be so brilliant.
That's a fantastic idea. Is there any way we have this already? Like, surely we have a superego, don't we? That's kind of the thing we keep to monitor ourselves. Can I also ask, actually, Sue, this is something that's obviously coming from personal experience. What's the story? What's happened here? I love how you paused to think about that before you saw it.
I spend a lot of time selling holidays and talking to people, and sometimes you say things to people that you think, actually, really wish I hadn't done that, or hadn't quite put it in the same way.
Do you worry that we might lose honesty by that, if we've all given time to be devious?
Yeah, possibly.
But it's worth it. What do you think, panel?
I think I'd be more honest if I had time to think about it. I'm instantly devious. That's my go-to.
You're right.
That's a new nickname, instantly devious. I quite like it.
I'd be quite worried that I'd just never speak again. I'd just be mute.
Perpetual pause, actually, why not? So is that on the short list? What do you think, Robert?
I think it could be. I think it got a good response from the audience. I think everybody recognised it straight away. It doesn't have to be that long a pause. You can just go you know, it's in relationships, isn't it? You know, does this dress look good on me? You know, and I'm 27 years I've been with my wife. She asked me yesterday, do I look weird in this? Should I put tights on? No, you look fine, love. That isn't good. I don't know what, that wasn't good. So I want, you know, almost I actually need a bit of input as well. So I do need a USB socket in my neck. So with like 26 different phrases.
Because, do you know, if there's ways of treating this and ways of actually practically doing what you're suggesting, Suze, they have genuine medical application. Because one of the things behind, say, Tourette's syndrome is that there's parts of our brains which are kind of more, this is a really fudgy way of putting it, but there's bits of us which are sort of more impulsive. So, for instance, I know that if you stub your toe and you swear, that comes from a different part of your brain than is a part which normally does more linguistic things. And that means that it doesn't hurt you as much. So people who swear get a slight pain relief thing. If you swear a lot in conversation, it starts moving those kind of patterns, shall we say, to your more linguistic areas, and it doesn't have as good a pain relief mechanism. So, are you going to would you be willing, Suze, to lose the joy of good swearing in order to implement this?
No.
You see, I ask because like that's particularly important to Irish people because like we use swear words the way that you lot use punctuation. You know, it's kind of it's good to us. So it's on the short list, though, is it?
I think that should be on the short list. Yeah.
Okay, pausing before we talk, maybe with amendments. Give her a round of applause, please. Got any more?
I have. Richard, are you here somewhere? Richard wants to lick his own eyes like an eyeball, lick his own eyeballs like a gecko.
Richard, do you want to admit to that?
Richard's got to answer to this.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to. He's there. I have a question for you in a minute, Richard. So explain first of all.
When I was sort of sat here, I've got quite sore eyes at the moment, and I thought quite a nice thing to be able to lick my eyeballs to clear them. But equally, I think it'd be quite a nice social thing to be able to do.
So, did you just suggest lick other people's eyeballs?
No. Only your own. That'd be disgusting otherwise.
My first question is, did you try blinking?
Blinking is so overrated.
Okay. Hands up in the room socially, you'd find it not intriguing, it would be intriguing. A normal social thing. If someone's you're talking to them, how you doing? Yeah, you're right.
Be honest. Shout out if you think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I love it.
There would be a market for flavoured mascara for ladies.
That is a great idea.
Just 2 words. Contact lenses.
So, okay, so if we're going back to your 2 words, does that mean licking them would be better because blinking's not good enough, or contact lenses might come out your tongue or something?
Do you want to swallow them?
I mean, if they're one day the soft ones, not my missus uses. Because there's already quite a lot of licking and finger and contact lens. I don't even know. I can't look at contact lenses. Freak me out. So when I see her, she kind of does, you know, some weird thing with it, I go, "Hey, what is it there?"
Don't lick your contact lenses.
No.
That's not. Do they have cyanide in, first of all?
Pass? Don't know. Never
We
worn
could
them.
be good to go if they don't.
Oh, well, or maybe like a nutrition supplement. You wear the contact for the day and just swallow it down. And
Yes.
Vitamin boost.
It's a lot more environmentally, because
Yeah,
she's now
absolutely.
she just throws them away after a day. And I go, well, there's a
Yeah.
big piece of plastic there.
Richard, your idea is not as stupid as it sounded.
No, it's brilliant.
And maybe for contact, like, why don't we? I'm all for just having more edible stuff. Like, you know, rather than rubbish. Just, do you know what? I know there's some people who, this is like a genuine real thing, and this is a fantastic idea, who are turning the, what's the word for those rings that you put in beer cans? Is there a word for those rings that you put in
I
beer
mean,
cans?
what, that hold them together?
Yeah.
I don't know, the annoying beer can rings that choke animals.
Well, because they choke animals, some people are trying to make edible ones.
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah.
So,
Like that.
oh, my God.
Or biodegradable.
Yes.
I hate to ruin this, but I recently got contact lenses and you're not allowed to lick them.
Oh, you're not?
It
Oh.
says in the booklet.
Thank you. That information is going home with me this evening, and I shall inform my...
How many people had to die before we discovered that?
Yeah.
So that's not on the short list, is it? Licking your own eyes?
Well, no, okay. Something's got to not be on the shortlist.
Okay, sorry,
Sorry.
sir. Give them a round of applause
Yeah,
anyway.
I thought it was great.
Well, before we finish, Robert, and you get to choose, I'm going to give you one final suggestion. Now, this is one that I have taken myself from Mother Nature. So, if we could have a sort of splice of life, take genes from anything that we want. Can you describe to people at home what this looks like, Robert? Can you describe it for them, please?
Looks like a sort of tortoisey, turtley fella with
Yeah.
a shell.
It's called the white-throated snapping turtle. Unfortunately, the poor thing is now critically endangered, and it can breathe through its butt.
Oh, that's good. That is good.
A couple of reptiles can do it. This one's from Australia and apparently is particularly good at it. It's what we call cloacal respiration. And I think actually we should have something like this, bearing in mind how many people talk out of it. So why not do this as well? Does that make the shortlist?
That really appeals to me very, very profoundly. The idea of being able to breathe from either end. Because I'm quite a nervous swimmer, but I quite like swimming underwater. I'm better at swimming underwater if I have goggles on and it's not too deep. I'm quite good at that. But what I would like is to get my arse out of the water. And I could do lengths without any trouble. Because I'm actually a better swimmer underwater than on the surface.
Well, actually, it's quite the opposite. Because, of course, being a reptile, turtles breathe air, but they breathe through the water through their bum. So actually, this could help you even more.
I could probably swim the channel non-stop.
Worth a go then?
Underwater.
Especially with the big flat feet as well.
With my big flat feet, they are quite good. They are a bit flipperish. Yeah.
Okay, well,
I like that.
only one of these suggestions can go forward and back to our fictitious boffins. So it's time to choose, Robert. Would you like Kathryn's suggestion of making us cyanide-proof, stealing genes from the bamboo lemur? Would you like Ben Monkey Feet's Garrod suggestion? Or Sue's suggestion that we have a pause button before we talk? Or finally, Mother Nature's suggestion of a little bit of bum breath?
I actually think I'm going to go for Ben's. I think I like Ben's thing because I think we could maintain our bipedal position, but I quite like a bit of flexibility, particularly early in the morning. I'd quite like to be a quadruped till about 11:30 because I have to do a lot of stretching, bad back, all that boring stuff. There's all this stuff on the floor I need to pick up. It'd be so much easier.
Yeah, you walk along, you dropped your keys, you pick your keys up.
Just flick them.
Job's a good one.
Yeah. I could write because you could also have a laptop developed for your feet, so you could I could write 2 books at once.
I love it. Okay, ladies and gents, Robert has selected this one. You heard it here first. That is going to be our idea. Ben's suggestion of having monkey feet, monkey hand feet things. We're going to take that idea and use it to spike the evolutionary punch bowl. So before we go, though, I'd love you to give a big round of applause to our wonderful panel. We've had Ben Garrod, we've had Kathryn Harkup, and we've had Robert Llewellyn. We've also had the fantastic audience here at Cheltenham Science Festival. I've been your host, Simon Watt. That was Level Up Human. Thank you ever so much. That was Level Up Human, hosted by Simon Watt, produced by Rachel Wheely, and supported by the Wellcome Trust. For more information, go to leveluphuman.com.